Here's another League of Legends post-game commentary coming your way, this time with Ashe, AD carry. And a couple things to talk about here, because I think it's been a little while since I did the last AD carry game, but we'll arrange these according to matchup. You can see I'm Ashe, partner with Sona bot against Trist and Soraka. We have Nasus top against Gnar, Kali mid against We have Katarina mid against Kali, Gnar top against Nasus, and Lee Sin in the jungle against Elise. So, if you're not familiar with my thoughts on Sona, I definitely do consider her to be among the weakest of the supports at the moment. The one complaint that I would have against this player in particular, though, is the Spell Thief instead of the Coin. The Coin is just a lot better in this team comp. But otherwise, the way the Ashe-Sona lane works, if you're not familiar, it's a heavy poke lane. Both Sona and I have the means to poke, and her Q will also amplify my next shot. So, we can definitely deal a lot of damage. But as for the Sona, it's definitely needed in this team comp because we have a bit of a combo we can do. She can either do a crescendo for an AoE stun leading into a Gnar's ult of course, and then I can pick off any stragglers, Katarina can jump in, do Death Lotus, or Lee Sin and I can do a pick, either with his kick knocking someone into me so I can ult them and then they can't go anywhere, or I ult someone so that he can kick them back into us. Basically, we have means to fight both as a team and as well as in skirmishes. Anyway, on that note, I'll explain how Ashe works. Your passive is Frost Shot. Your auto attacks will slow the enemy with the amount of the slow scaling changing every 3 levels, 1, 4, 7, 10, so on. And it also has the secondary effect of Ashe being unable to crit. Instead, every auto attack she does on a frosted target will be a guaranteed crit. This crit is, of course, worth significantly less damage. Scaling with Ashe's crit rate herself. And, well, because of that, I think Ashe is one of the main reasons why the Infinity Edge is, well, not the Infinity Edge, but the AD carries are getting a pretty significant change as of the postseason. The main thing that I'm anticipating is some sort of rework to the way crit works, something along the lines of Ashe's passive, so she may get some sort of change. I would genuinely not be surprised if she does. On that note, her Q is Ranger's Focus. It's a attack speed steroid of sorts. It has 2 parts to it. First is that you can just activate it at first for a rush of attack speed. Secondary effect is that in the event you actually have 5 charges on your passive, which you get from just auto-attacking things or freezing things with your volley or your ult, any of those count. Your auto-attack becomes a volley shot, firing a main arrow and then some secondary arrows. And these secondary arrows can crit, which means Ashe can melt people in duels. It's also because of that very reason I think she's probably the best AD carry for taking down Nasus. On account of him being a juggernaut, it's difficult for him to close the gap, and in the event he does wither, you can just use Quicksilver Sash, pop Q, and if you have the armor penetration, he will melt before you. The other effect of the Q is that it will amplify the slow on your passive, making it much harder for enemies to close in on you, which is why I love picking her into Nasus. Moving forward, your W is Volley. It's a cone skill shot type move. You fire an arc of arrows. The arrows will deal some damage, 1-to-1 AD ratio, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, their cost is kind of steep relative to Ashe's mana pool. It's like 50, but she only has like 300. The frost shot, each enemy can only be affected by the arrows once, I believe. The arrows cannot pass through targets, and they will frost the target, allowing you to follow up with an auto attack for a guaranteed crit. So, moving forward, your E is Hawk Shot. It no longer gives passive gold generation. It hasn't done that in months, as far as I can remember. But it is a global vision granting tool. Normally, I would be spamming it like mad here, but just due to the way we know these lanes are going to play out, I don't bother. Sadly, I missed the cannon there. That sucks. And finally, your ult is the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, or as I usually simplify it down to just Crystal Arrow. It is a global skill shot. It will hit the first champion and stop moving. The first enemy struck will be stunned for a period of time, depending on how far the arrow has traveled. Minimum of 1.5 seconds, I think, max of 3 seconds. And the ramp-up time on this arrow is extremely small, especially when you compare it to something like a Super Mega Death Rocket. And in the event that there are enemies nearby that also get hit by it, instead of being stunned, they'll just receive a massive slow, something like double your passive. So due to the frost shot and her attack speed, Ashe is not a hyper carry, but she's probably one of the stronger carries that you can get beyond that. She was pretty much always my favorite pick into Callista because you had the range advantage. Even though Callista had the mobility, you could make it very difficult for her to actually get in range to auto-attack because she can only move when she's either casting her Q or autoing. So you had that, and when you're ready to kill her, you just pop your ult and watch her melt. So you can see right here, Lee formed a gank, but it just wasn't lined up for him to actually get anything there. I don't know what he was hoping for, but I don't know, maybe he inspired a little bit of fear. They'll think this guy's crazy, erratic, something along those lines. One thing I should mention is that my voice is kind of shot. I don't know if you've noticed. So right there's nothing I can do for Sona, but I do have the flash up to escape from Elise. Once she went into spider form, the only thing I had to worry about was repel. At that point, I didn't have to worry about the cocoon, so I opted to flash to safety. Now, I don't want to go back here because I can get the BF sword. You can look at my goal and see that I'm relatively close. The thing that's going to not work out for us in this lane is simply that Trist did get some assist EXP, if I remember. Granted, well, she also got some right there off Cat. And while she died, she is going to have the EXP advantage on me since I'm pretty much just here for this one wave and I want to go back and get my BF sword. And the reason why this is all going to come into play is this is going to be one of those games where I have to climb out of a hole. Right there you can see Lee, so I'm guessing the bush was warded. And right here there's nothing I can do, so I just want to injure her badly enough to where she has to go back. So I get the BF sword, I get the potion, and sadly the death timer was long enough here to where it wasn't really, like I don't save time by dying rather than recalling. If you're not aware, recall takes 8 seconds to work, that death timer was something like 15 seconds. If you factor in the healing time, I still lose a little bit of time. But as for Nasus, I was a little bit worried about that lane because the enemy has some late game power in their ranks with both the Trist and the Nasus. Thing is, I can kind of take one of them out of a fight. It's the other one that we then have to worry about. And in the event of a team fight, that's where we have to rely on that Gnar-Sona combo I told you about earlier.
An ally has been slain.
So right there you can see Gnar went a little too deep with his dive. It's not really a good idea to tower dive Nasus in most cases. But my main complaint about playing AD carries these days is that most of the supports I play with have no concept of brush control. To put things into context for you, that Sona finally did drop a ward there, and as a result, Soraka could no longer spam her Q. The reason why this is so important is that let's see, I believe the Nomad's Medallion has a 50% mana regeneration effect on it. As for the Spell Thief, that one might also have it, but there's also a bit of a trade-off here to where Soraka will regen health for just standing near dying minions as well as landing her Q. Meanwhile, all Sona has is her W. So, just in terms of raw sustain, the lane favors Soraka by quite a bit. That's why I think Sona would have been much, much better off going for the the Shurelias. So that's what I would have done in the lane. It's up to you if you agree, disagree, or whatever. here we're trying to poke down Trist. For a little while longer, I do have the range advantage on her. So right there, Sona was a little bit slow. And that's what cost us from just following up with a crescendo to guarantee a kill. So right here, I kind of want to poke them under the tower. The one drawback, of course, is just I don't have the mana to spam volley. You could do some sort of blue Ashe gimmick. I actually have seen that once in the past, something like 2 weeks. Would not recommend it, but it's possible and can work. So right there, Elise's around. All in all, I do prefer Elise as my jungler over Lee Sin. For one, Elise is much more effective late game. Lee Sin falls off hard, and Elise, her cocoon I believe is a little bit more worthwhile than the dragon kick, but not a big deal. So Kali showed up. She's not having much luck against Cat. It's been a long time since I saw an Akali, and the cat will pretty much show you why that is. Due to all the attention pulling down bot, I opt to just peace out. I can go back, get boots, Vamp Scepter, and with the Vamp Scepter they'll increase my sustain so I don't have to rely on Sona as much. But right here, that EXP gap between Trist and myself is getting larger. So after a certain point, I believe she will have 1 level over me, which she's going to keep for a good portion of the game, if I remember.
I do my best work.
And the reason why this is just a problem is, for one, it gives her more stats, gives her an extra skill point to use, and the worst part, of course, is just that it boosts her range an additional 7, so it's harder to kill her. For one, whenever I try to poke her, she can poke back just as hard. And depending on what she has for items at the time, her explosive shot can be all the more painful. So right here, since Sona took so long to come back, I got zoned. I had to miss the cannon, but I managed to get the smaller minions.
I always take the
So right there is the Buster Shot. Knocks me into the tower, but I get to take her out with. But of course, the downside is Elise is right there. All things considered, I don't really know why she's paying so much attention to this lane, since if she can get some of the pressure off Nasus, they will have his late game scaling to bank on. I was surprised she flashed there, to be honest, when I was playing the game, because I figured the reason why she stayed in Spider form was for the movement speed and for the Spider Lings to shield her. Apparently that was not the case.
An ally has been slain.
So right there we trade, and the important thing is we got the kill on Cat, so she can help snowball out of control, and basically the rest of us are there to provide CC while she goes for the execute. So I don't think I explained it in this game, but the way that the crit on Frost Shot works now, Ashe's DPS has taken a severe hit as a result of that. In your average fight, she is actually the weakest AD carry. You may say, what about Urgot? Well, Urgot can still crit, and that can be a mess. Like right here, Trist is going to just blow me up since I can't dodge everything, and Sona just took too long. In order for Ashe to have significant DPS, you have to rely on her Ranger's Focus, or Q. When she's actually using the volley, that will offset the damage penalty. So if you're curious on what I'm talking about, once you have an Infinity Edge, the passive will give you 2.5 times damage when you crit, instead of the usual double. Ashe, usually at full build, would be just a little bit under 200. So that means with an Infinity Edge, she'll actually be dealing less damage with a crit than any other AD carry in the game. But like I said, this is offset when you have Ranger's Focus. It's just until that's working, her DPS is pretty lackluster. The main reason why you'd want her is just for her CC. I'd say pretty much out of all the AD carries in the game, she probably does have the most now, or at least the best. All the others, well, most of the others have some sort of trick, be it a displacement or even something as neat as like Varus's ult. But then you run into cases like Twitch and Cog where they don't have anything. So right here with the bot lane recalled, this is our opportunity to take the dragon, and I can use the Ranger's focus, easy peasy. Unfortunately, Lee is not really interested. So I genuinely don't know why Lee backed off there. We had Elise pretty much dead to rights. Instead, the way he worked, he waited way too long instead of engaging on her to get her to back off. As a result, I'm stuck. Kali shows up. And let's see. I'm trying to remember right here because I believe Cat kills Gnar. Or not Gnar, Nasus, I mean. So we are trading pressure down here, and we're not getting too much return. I don't know why Gnar is warping in, to be honest, but
We must press on.
the important thing is Elise doesn't have her flash here where she burnt it against Lee Sin. It's just, I don't genuinely know how they got caught out here like that. That's a bit baffling. But I'm thinking at best maybe Lee and Gnar pre-made or something because, like, that was a crazy move. Like, there was no text in chat if you looked that said, okay, Elise flashed down, here's the timestamp. It's just he went and somehow knew. Then again, he might have been willing to trade a teleport for a flash. There's that possibility. It's just speculation, though. It's just not something I would have done unless I had some sort of privileged information. But anyway, I'm back down bot. Missed the cannon, of course, because that's the way I roll. And right now, I'm just not sure on who has more teammates where. Right now, I'm trying to poke down Trist. Cat's kind of helping me with her Ludens and potentially crap, I forgot what her dagger is called. Bouncing Blade, maybe? But basically, once we get Trist low enough, I can ult, Cat can jump in, Death Lotus, jump out. Fun stuff that Cat is known for. So I was waiting for the tower to go down, I popped the crystal arrow. Sona flashes for me, I don't know why. But she saves her crescendo to secure the kill. That's the important part. So instead of us potentially getting a double, we have to walk off with just assist gold. Anyway, right here I'm a little short on the Infinity Edge, so I don't want to go back. I'm kind of looking for some cheap gold to get somewhere. You can see from the spiraling, Elise is nearby. It's just she wasn't close enough for us to actually get anything. And once Nasus shows up, I figure, okay, time for us to peace out. I don't have the QSS to cleanse the Wither just yet, even though the Wither probably isn't too severe. It's just precaution. I'm gonna go ahead and kill this because that will give me the gold I need to get the Infinity Edge. Now the Infinity Edge will give you the 25% crit that it advertises added onto your 110 to be a 135. Then it also gives you, I think, half of what your bonus is. So half of 35 is about 17, which puts you at around 150 damage. 150% damage per crit. As for the tower, there wasn't really anything we could do here because they had 4 people bot, we had 3. Had we tried to contest, there was always a chance Nasus could just ult and tank tower. That would not work out for us. So, in the meantime, to try and make the most of a bad situation, I just go ahead and try to pick up the CS here. Ultimately, if I can get my Phantom Dancer, the crit from my passive will go up significantly. From there, I just need to get the AD to actually make said crits hurt. So that would be your Bloodthirster and your Last Whisper. For that reason, I don't really think Blade of the Ruined King is a good item on Ashe. There's probably going to be a few scenarios, I will admit, where it's going to be better than the Bloodthirster. But I imagine 9 times out of 10 it's going to be Bloodthirster's better. Usually one rule is pretty much never say never, because there always seems to be an exception to whatever rule you're trying to come up with.
My aim is steady.
Normally for Blade of the Room King, like, you wouldn't want it on Ashe for the kiting potential because she's already pretty good at that with her volley and her passive, and then her Crystal Arrow also. So if you wanted it, it'd be for just the attack speed and the percent HP damage. The lifesteal is inferior to the Bloodthirster, that's why you wouldn't want that. So you just have to decide. The other advantage of the Bloodthirster, of course, is the shield. Makes it a little bit tankier to take you down, and gives you a lot more dueling power than you already have. So right here, until we actually have an opportunity somewhere, I just decide to pick up some CS where I can. You can see that I'm getting closer to getting the Zeal, and the Zeal is my next pickup. You can see that just from the enemy gathering. The next fight's going to be here in the mid lane. Sadly, I don't think we have any way of gaining true sight to pick off Akali and her Shroud. So we kind of either have to wait for it to expire or try to get her close enough to the tower where the tower will give us the true sight.
See how close they can get.
Now, one thing I'm not sure about is whether or not, I can't remember what Cat's W is called, but the spin move, if that will charge up her Luden's Echo if it doesn't connect. Because if so, then the low cooldown on that move will give her a bit of a window to charge it fairly quickly for more harass. But if you have to connect to something, then yeah, that theory's kind of shot. The other reason why she can kind of afford to spam right there, as you can see that combo between Lisa and myself actually about the kick into the Crystal Arrow. So, since I didn't have the Quicksilver Sash, I had to fall back. But all things considered, we're in a really good position to just take the tower right here. The Nasus ult is down, Akali's dead to Gnar. And Nasus is not really fed, so we don't have to worry about that. The one bad part, though, is my team decides to back off before we can actually finish that tower off, so that's a little bit of gold we all could have used that we simply aren't getting quite yet. So if you look at the death timers, only Akali is down right now. We do need to take this quick so we can get out of here before Tristana and Soraka come back. And that's pretty much why I'm walking away. I have enough for my Zeal. We can go ahead and help ourselves to the Dragon, which is coming up, and Ashe is really, really good at taking neutral monsters. You can see me taking the various jungle creep, Dragon, and Bear Creep section. Since I have 5 stacks, I go ahead and hit Q, and just look at that number climb. Sadly, I think the whole Lee Sin no smite is a recurring theme throughout this game, but luckily it doesn't come back to bite us. So one bad thing about Ashe not having any crit is right now I don't get the attack speed bonus. Like, I get it right now when I'm attacking the siege minion, but with the other creep, I don't get it. In the event that I can kill one in 2 hits, that will work, or if I can do the volley like that. But otherwise, like, that's one drawback. You don't get the effect of that master as well. Of course, when you are fighting champions, though, the forced crits will cause it to ramp up really quick, and sometimes you can catch someone off guard.
Swiftly now.
So I went for the Cloak of Agility second because the raw crit ties into my passive and is very worthwhile. And in other news, you'll see the Crystal Arrow is up. You can't quite tell on my screen, but I think Lee Sin's Dragon Kick is up. In fact, I think all of our ults are up. Maybe not Cat's. But Ness goes ahead and takes the top. Cat's taking her sweet time clearing this, even though we are running out of time on that turret, and it's not getting any healthier. Good news is Nasus goes down. The bad news is it took 2 of us up there, so there is some power play potential in the mid where they could use 4 people to try to pick us off. The good news is Soraka and Akali don't have reliable CC for that. The bad news is Triss can kind of jump in, Buster Shot. Elise has her Cocoon. Drawback, of course, of the leap Buster Shot is she has to get a kill really quick to leap back out, otherwise she's in a really, really bad spot.
I always take the high ground.
So right here the red is up, I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I don't remember how the slows work exactly to see if that overrides mine or if they have some sort of synergy, so the important thing is just it's going to add some damage onto my attacks and just makes me all the more annoying. Bad news, of course, that the burn will make it very difficult to siege under a tower, because the lingering burn will pull tower aggro.
Brilliant. Lead the way.
So right here I'm firing the hawk shot to see if there's something we can get down the mid. Mainly I was looking for potential with a crystal arrow or something to try to catch someone out of position since Cat can quickly Shinpo in. And the arrow would most likely be a 3-second stun, so Cat can do her whole Death Lotus animation and she brings the DPS. In the meantime, I help myself to Nasus, and I go ahead and kill the one wolf. And now we're sieging under town. You'll get to see what I mean by that red buff is not always a blessing. Especially since I'm the AD carry, I'm the one who has the most potential knockdown towers due to attack speed and raw AD. It is true that your AP affects the damage you deal to towers, but the drawback is the AP carry rarely has attack speed, with the possible exception of Azir, Kayle, and a couple other real niche picks. And kind of funny that I'm saying Azir is a niche pick these days, since I don't even know the last time I saw one. I don't follow the pro scene to know if he's still there, but it's just there was a day when if he wasn't picked, or well, if he wasn't banned, he was getting picked. But now that we got the bottom tower that's global for everyone, I can go ahead and hold myself to their red buff so I get to keep it a little bit longer, as well as deny it from Tristana at least. You can see the crystal arrow is only 10 seconds away. Basically right here I'm looking for a pick. I was kind of hoping Elise would jump in on Cat, because then I could fire the crystal arrow and we can collect a spider. It's just she didn't quite go for it.
My aim is
So right here is when I realize, okay, we're not getting anything done up there. I'm going to go ahead and push this in, see if we can draw pressure somewhere. Kind of hoping they do the same thing mid without getting forced into a fight, because like I said, the enemy doesn't exactly have any real good engage outside of Cocoon. So right here you can see it's starting to play out.
I always take the high
And right here I
ground.
kind of wanted to reunite with my team. I don't want to be down here alone because Elise is a bit of a headache if she can land a Cocoon. So right there I fired the volley to slow Nasus a bit more, make it more difficult for him to close the gap. And sadly, if you noticed, he has a frozen heart already, so I need more attack speed. So, poor Jackal gets caught out, and without an ult, he's toast.
Let's see how close they can get.
Ashe is so freaking annoying as Nasus.
No one escapes my aim.
But without him, you can see my team is making the power play. I'm going ahead and pushing this in. And my goal here is, I'm kind of hoping, hey Lee, I'm on the tower, you can come up here, we can take this real quick, grab the inhibitors, swing back, buy, you know, all the good stuff that normally wins games. It's just he waited a bit long, and you can see that Nasus is pretty much better. Good news is, Elise goes back down, but we can't take the inhibitor now.
Never lose focus.
So one volley will offset the advantage he gets from his home guards, and right now we have an opening to exploit, but it's not completely open. That's the drawback. Anyway, you can see the dragons up on the minimap. Even without Lee, I can take this pretty well by myself. The key thing is just that Elise is dead, because Smite will beat me until very late in the game. So hopefully you got a feel right there for how much damage Ashe can deal with her Ranger's Focus. And that's without the Phantom Dancer or the Bloodthirster, so it gets worse from there. But Ashe is very good at soloing Dragon. I'm not quite sure if she can solo Baron. I imagine there's probably a build where she can. It's just, you're not going to find that in this video. Anyway, Phantom Dancer obtained. We now have a BF sword to get the Bloodthirster. And a last Whisper would be ideal for Nasus, because you can see he has Ninja Tabby, Frozen Heart, Glacial Shroud. He is piling on the armor. The thing is, I'm just figuring I'm not even going to bother with him with no MR. Cat's going to melt him in a fight. I'll just go on someone else, be it Akali, Beast, Trist, whatever. And you can see Elise got blown up just like that. So I'm looping around here in the event we can actually find someone, with the potential to just loop around and go grab Baron instead.
Stand together.
So with all of our dragon buffs, you can see the structure is really a match for us. And with that inhibitor down, this is usually when you want to go Baron. There's going to be a little bit of confusion. We could try to bait them into something. There are a lot of options open right now, but all of them revolve around this general area.
Do not confuse mercy.
So you can see some of us are waiting in the brush for that catch. It's quite possibly warded though, and you can kind of tell from the way they're moving that it most likely is. None of us had a sweeper, or is a sweeper handy, so yeah. Good news is I managed to catch Elise with my crystal arrow, and like usual, Nasus kind of falls back and falls apart. Let's see, Triss goes down to Gnar. I pick off Elise. And with 3 of them down, Baron's pretty much ours. Sure, we did lose Cat in the fray, but the important thing is Nasus went down and he's their armor, their tank. So we don't really have anything to worry about. Thing is, like right now I kind of want to push this in so we can start to damage the tower, plus my team is kind of tunneling on the Akali. But with those 2 things out of the way, it's pretty much our Baron. And you'll notice Lee Sin is once again going to say no smite. Now the one thing that I find really annoying here is as soon as I get my Rangers focus up, I get knocked out of the meter, so I actually lose out on a good portion of my DPS right there. You probably could have taken the Baron a few seconds sooner if not for that. You can see I was planning on walking away, but then I saw no smite, so I had to stick around. 600 damage when you have smite up is not really an issue, but 1600 without smite, that requires a couple extra autos on my part. So, the end of the game is at hand. I have the Bloodthirster. I go ahead and help myself to a longsword just for the last bit of AD. This component of the last whisper in the event that the team doesn't just flat out fold here. And you can see right now our plan is go ahead and get the waves pushing so that they have to clear mid as well as defend the towers from us. And I'm using my Hawkshot just to try to get a feel for where they are. Sadly, I never upgraded my trinket this game, so I was not able to help out with warding as largely as I'd like. But I do have the Hawkshot to somewhat alleviate some of that.
I always take the high ground.
It's kind of like a better blue trinket, I guess. So, Cat killed Soraka. We're down here with Baron minions. You can see Trist is alone. We have Sona at our backs. Nasus is the one we do have to worry a bit about. But while they're distracted, we help ourselves to the bot inhibitor, and at this point, there's really nothing they can do to stop it. There's super minions coming in from 2 lanes. We have the Baron buff on them. Let's game. So, Ashe AD carry, you got to see Sona, my pick for weakest support at the moment. Good to see Nasus get taken apart, and a few